Afternoon and welcome to another episode of The Hunt. Hope everyone's enjoying a nice rainy day here in the Northeast. I know we have viewers from all around the world, so hopefully you guys have a little better weather than we have here. But thanks for tuning in as always. My name is Kevin Roth, Managing Director of Advice. We're a recruitment agency serving the New York area for over 35 years. And The Hunt is back. We're all about providing insight and advice to people navigating the recruiting landscape, whether you be it from the hiring manager perspective or more of a job seeker. This is a weekly show designed to be interactive, live, in real time, no script, unrehearsed. So that it's meant to be engaging. I encourage everybody watching to use the comment box to chime in with questions throughout the show. Let me know where you're watching from, where you're tuning in from, if you have any comments, critiques, if you don't like something I said, or better yet, if you like something I said. I look forward to having that level of interaction throughout the episode. But again, this is a weekly series, and as recruiters, we come across a lot of interesting context and concepts that a lot of you experience in day-to-day life, and this is meant to be that forum that brings a lot of advice and guidance out there into the open. So I hope everyone enjoys today's episode. And again, if you're just joining in, love to hear where you're watching from. Sally, thanks so much for tuning in. And I'll make sure I get to a lot of these questions throughout the show. I'll find good opportunities to answer these questions as they come in. But Sally, just to start off with you, if you've been using your mobile phone to make work calls, should you email or call your boss to ask if you could expense it? Depending on how much you're using it, I would have a very open conversation and ask them. Mention you've been using it a lot. You find yourself outside of hours, constantly utilizing your phone. Is there any way they'd be willing to at least cover part of the expense and part of the cost and see where it gets you? But make it more of a conversation rather than a demand. All right. So hopefully that helps kick things off. But anyways, today's episode is a lot from the company's perspective, from the hiring manager side. And we're going to be talking about using recruiting agencies to help support you and using them in moderation. Sometimes less is more, and I'm going to share a lot of insight and a lot of guidance based on situations we've come across that a lot of hiring managers don't think about when it comes to using recruiting agencies. And who better to speak about that than someone who sits in that exact field? So without further ado, again, if you have questions, chime in. But in speaking about utilizing recruiting agencies, a lot of you watching, if you don't understand kind of the typical relationships, most recruiters you come in contact with and most recruiters that companies utilize are what we call contingency agencies. Easy for me to say. So contingency essentially means that we as recruiters are not earning a fee. We're not making a penny unless we ultimately represent the candidate that a company eventually hires. Everything else that happens is essentially a free service. Similar to real estate, if we're not the one that ultimately makes the placement, we're not earning any fee. And from a company's perspective, that presents a very nice opportunity. You're sitting there thinking, you're a hiring manager watching this, wow, that's great. So I could get as many recruiters as I want. I could have 10, 15 of them out there scouring, getting every single possible candidate for us. And it will cost me the same amount anyways, because I'm only going to pay one placement fee. So it seems like the obvious choice of why not use more agencies. It benefits you. You'll get more candidates. You'll have more people looking for you, more good resumes sent your way, and you're paying the same price. Why would you not take advantage of that? And this episode is all about bringing to light some of the issues that take place when you pursue that strategy and when you're using more than a few agencies. So the first thing to think about when you're really trying to understand why wouldn't you just take advantage of this free service as much as you could is to understand the impact of the perception on your brand. And understanding more is not always better. The best way I could put this into context, if anybody single out there is watching, and picture if you had like a few friends that were in the matchmaking world, right? And you're a single friend, they know you, and they always try to look out for you. And within a course of 2 weeks, 5 of those friends all reached out to you about the same single person trying to set you up with this person. All right. So every day, essentially, you're getting a phone call from a different friend saying, oh, you got to meet this person. They'll be great for you. You'd love this person. They're actively looking for to go out and date and meet somebody. So some idealists out there might say, oh, that must be fate. If you're getting 5, 6 people reaching out to you for the same date, like you got to meet this person. But others, and a majority of people, I would say, might sit there and think, how desperate is this person that they're aligning with 5 or 6 different matchmakers just to try to meet somebody. And the second, third, fourth, fifth time you hear this person's name, it might start to get a little concerning as to what you're getting into. Well, the same holds true if you're a hiring manager and you're watching this and you're aligning with 3, 4, 5 different agencies. And now you have those agencies all utilizing similar resources, LinkedIn Recruiter, their network, reaching out to a very specific set of skills and profiles. And it's getting more and more common that you're seeing the same candidate getting reached out to by multiple people, and that diminishes the brand and diminishes the impact the same way you'd see it on the relationship analogy that I just mentioned. So think about that. Think about the perception if you were in the candidate seat and you got calls 4 or 5 times in the course of a week about the same exact role. And more often than not, you'd be wondering, how desperate is this company that they're using this many different agencies to try to find somebody? And it also loses a sense of, I guess, a sense of selectivity and uniqueness. You know, it feels nice getting recruited by one person for one role, and there's a sense of like fate there and destiny that, you know, this one person found you for this one job, and what are the odds that you came together and this was the perfect position? When you have 5 or 6 different recruiters reaching out to you, that sense of excitement and enthusiasm starts to dwindle. So again, if you're a hiring manager watching this and you have questions, definitely use the comment box to throw them in there, and I'll do my best to give guidance around specific scenarios. But overall, recognize more is not always better. And the more people you have out there, the more people are getting word of the same job, the same time, over and over again, it loses a lot of the power. And if you're trying to attract stellar candidates, in this situation, using more recruiters will actually diminish your ability to get those candidates interested because they're hearing about it 5, 6 times, and that's forcing them to step away from it rather than having 1 or 2 agencies maybe reach that person, and they'll be more apt to explore. So that's number 1, and really thinking about this. Secondly is mixed messaging. We've all played the telephone game, and you know, by the time it gets to the last person, it's a completely different message than what was originally conveyed. And similar concept when you're using multiple agencies, 3, 4, 5 different recruiting agencies, the message has that much more risk to get misconstrued in terms of presenting the brand, presenting the opportunity, presenting the reporting structure. A lot of what we do as recruiters is find common ways to present certain information. We get questions where we don't always know all the answers, but there's certain assumptions being made based on the conversations we've had. Well, if you have 5 different recruiters making 5 different assumptions, the deviations between those assumptions become pretty drastic, and you're opening yourself up as a company to a lot of risk in trying to attract talent when you have that many different recruiters trying to convey that many different messages. So understanding that, think if you're in that seat and you're a recruiter or you're a candidate, and you get reached out to, and you just heard about this job and it sounded like X, Y, and Z, and then you get called a day later about the same job, but it sounds completely different. Even if the second person presented it better, you're almost kind of turned off by the mixed messages that you got. And that in itself will lead to you walking away and choosing not to explore it. So again, another example that we hear all the time, and I've seen this a lot, where I'll call a candidate and they'll ask me, is this the job with X company? And I'll say yes, and they'll say, oh, well, it's weird because the other recruiter that I spoke to described it differently in certain situations. And then I'm left in a weird spot as a recruiter, not knowing what they shared, or did I hear something differently, or what do we not know? And they're in a weird spot because they're not understanding if which person they're hearing is right, and are they just being sold on this, and why the misconnection. So you have to really understand that the fewer recruiters you use, the more control you have over the messaging and the continuity you have across the messaging. To use one more analogy, if anybody saw a great movie about McDonald's founders, and in this movie, these two brothers who started the McDonald's Corporation have an amazing level of control over everything that takes place, quality control, the way things are handled, every single thing that's done. And in the movie, Ray Kroc eventually convinces them to start franchising and opening locations. And the more they franchise and branch out, they start to see little things slipping through and the brand starting to diminish. So think of that franchise model and how the more you spread yourself out across the country, coming from a homegrown shop with your grandfather's recipes and everything done the same way, as you start to give up that control to more and more franchises, that starts to diminish. The same holds true when you're looking to attract talent. And if you have 5, 6 people out there giving 5, 6 different presentations and pitches, you're really opening yourself up to a lot of risk that you're not going to be able to draw the type of talent. And it's not that that talent isn't reachable, but it's more so they're being turned off by hearing this message too many times in too many different ways. So really think of that mixed messaging and really think about the fact that more is not always better in terms of your reach. All right. So those are two key points in terms of perception by the ultimate end candidate that you're trying to reach. The last piece we're going to talk about is from the quality of the recruiting support that you're going to receive. And this is a critical thing to think about as well. And no one would know this better than someone in my seat who does this for a living every day. So again, those of you watching, if you have questions, I appreciate the feedback in real time. It's awesome seeing that. But the last piece we're going to touch on is the quality of recruitment. As a recruiting professional, the better recruiters out there, the best recruiters out there, are able to find any talent that any other agency could find. The thing that separates them from the rest is their ability to articulate and present an opportunity, ability to understand a brand and be able to really clearly define a message, and the ability to do that without having to worry about, has this person already heard about this 3 times? Is that going to affect things? Do I have to start off right off the bat with that just to save time? So the best recruiters want to align themselves with companies and roles that they know haven't been out there with 15 other agencies, haven't been out there 6 different iterations. They want to be able to present these things in a way that the candidate's going to be hearing it for the first time, and they'll be excited to make that connection. So when you're thinking about the quality of recruiting support that you're going to get, again, it might seem obvious, why not use 4 or 5 different agencies? Well, personally, I can tell you, and I consider myself to be fairly strong at what I do, if I heard you were working with 4 or 5 other agencies, I would not engage on that search because it doesn't allow me to truly allow my strengths to shine in being able to present and develop that good rapport about a role when I know that this has been out there and a lot of these people have already been touched by it and might already be tainted because someone shared something different that I was not able to articulate. So as a hiring manager watching this, again, it seems obvious to use multiple different agencies, but it's not just candidate perception you have to worry about. It's the quality of the recruiting support that you're ultimately going to get, because the recruiting agencies that'll accept the fact that there's 5 other agencies out there, the first few times they hear from a candidate, they pick up the phone. Oh, sorry, I've already heard about this opportunity. They pick up the phone again, call the next candidate. Oh, yeah, I just heard about this the other day. After that happening 2 or 3 times, I could tell you from experience, the guy sitting behind me in the office could tell you, after you hear that 2 or 3 times, there is a sense of defeat, and it's almost like moving on, and we'll figure out if we get lucky with something, getting thrown in the mix. So recognize in what I'm speaking, if you take away anything, that, again, number 1, more is not always better. You want to be able to present your brand in a unique way, in a different way, and not flood the market with recruiting support because the perception will be that you're desperate. Number 2, when you use multiple agencies, you open yourself up to a lot of issues with mixed messaging and candidates getting messages from different recruiters in different ways, and that'll turn off top talent. And number 3, the quality of the recruiting support that's going to align with you. The best recruiters at any agency are going to avoid partnering on this particular search if they know that there's 5 other agencies on it. It has nothing to do with competition. We love the competition. We live for the competition. But it has everything to do with our ability to use our strengths to our advantage to find you the quality of people that you want without having to worry that 3 or 4 other people have already been there and crossed that line and had an impact on this person's perception of the role. Right. So I really hope this advice is helpful. And in terms of guidance and what you can do, because you might be sitting here saying, this is a lot of things that I got to avoid. But then what do? I need to hire. I need to hire quickly. And I feel like I need the most support I could possibly get. So I need to reach out to 5 different agencies to get things quickly. What you need to do, find 1 or at most 2 agencies that you feel confidently in, that you've vetted, that you've got good recommendations on, that know what they're doing, that seem to know how to present your brand and your company and your role in an attractive way. And you start with those 2 only. You don't open yourself up to any other agencies, but you set expectations. let each of those agencies know that if you don't see quality candidates in the first 3 to 4 weeks, or whatever you want to set that timeline on, that you will be exploring other routes because this is an urgent hire. So that they're on the clock, that same pressure is there, that same sense of urgency is there, but you avoid the risks of everything we talked about in this episode today, and you set the right tone. And now you're only aligning with 1 or 2 agencies that are working ferociously to try to find you the right people. And if they don't, then you go ahead and you have the tough conversation with each of those agencies that you appreciate their help. They tried, you hold nothing against them, but at this point, you're going to shut them off from presenting any future candidates for this particular search, and that you're going to be engaging 1 or 2 different agencies to be able to utilize. But make sure you have that conversation, because if you just, after 3-4 weeks, bring in more agencies, now you're going to hit the same issues that we just talked about. So keep it limited. If you choose your agencies wisely, and they're in a specialized area, they're in an area of focus that you operate in, if you feel the need to use more than 2 agencies, you are not choosing the right people. You're not partnering with the right companies. Because in today's day and age, with technology and being able to utilize LinkedIn to find people, being able to use other resources to connect with the right talent, we all mostly have the same technology to find the talent. So it's more about who's going to present it the best and show the right persistence and level of, personality to get people engaged. And that's how you really want to choose who you align with. So in regards to setting yourself up for success, I'd say 1, if at most 2 agencies should be the max that you're partnering with to really set you up in the right light. And make sure you set expectations for those agencies. If you feel that you need more than that, you're not aligning with the right people. All right. So I hope, again, that this context was helpful in setting you up for success. If you're looking to find talent, you're looking to find the right people. I know it seems so obvious. Use as much free help as possible, and you'll find the right people. There are so many risks to going that route, and it's an unnecessary risk to take. The more you can align yourself with 1 or 2 great agencies, they're going to know your brand. They'll know how to present it. They'll be an extension of your team. Your team will know them. You'll be on texting terms. I have clients that were texting at Saturday nights or whatever it is, and we know each other. We know our personalities. We know what we look for. We know our processes. It's such a pleasure when you get to that level of rapport, and that should be the most that you ever need to extend yourself to. So if anyone else has any questions, please make sure you throw them in. If you're not watching live, but you're watching this after, it's not Thursday at 3 p.m., you're watching it over the weekend or whenever, please throw your questions into the comment box. I'll go back through those and make sure I answer any questions that I can. And make sure you're following Advice Personnel on LinkedIn. We're constantly putting out content like this. And if there's certain topics you'd love to see in a future episode of The Hunt, leave those in the comments. We'll make sure we work those into our episode roster and come back around to those at a later date. But I really thank you for tuning in. I hope this insight's helpful. It's been a pleasure hosting yet another episode of The Hunt. And we'll be back next Thursday with a brand new episode and another great topic to help you navigate whether you're searching for new talent or looking to land a new position. So I hope everyone has a great rest of the week, an awesome weekend, and we'll see you all next Thursday for another episode. Take care.